Hello and welcome to Good Things, a podcast where we talk about stuff that we like. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about Ghost, the band that is, not actual ghosts, and their recent movie called Rite Here Rite Now, and say why we like it. So yeah, hello, welcome to the show. I suppose we're just going to get straight into things because what's the point in dilly daddling around?
Exactly.
The two of us are fans of Ghost, and as well, if you're new to the show, Good Things is a podcast where we think that there's a little bit too much negativity in fandom generally on the internet, so we're trying to bring a bit of positivity back and share our love of things. So that's what this show is about, is us just talking about things that we like.
Things that are good.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. It's mainly going to be heavy metal, probably
Some
other
films,
music, comics, books,
games,
food. We might do one about pizza. It could be anything. But yeah, we're going to try and keep it positive. Apart from
all your negative.
the French. Imagine it was like good things.
Yeah,
It's a
except for the
racist
French.
podcast brought to you by nerd kind of stuff. But yeah, Ghost, the band. For anyone unfamiliar with them, Laura, would you like to explain who they are?
I suppose they're not quite heavy metal, I suppose. There's a raging debate about whether they're heavy metal or not.
Yeah, but just we don't need to get into the debate straight away. Just who are Ghosts?
Ghosts are basically they're a mass band who do Scooby-Doo metal, I think is what a lot of people term it as.
Scooby-Doo metal. Well, I suppose there was the new the video that they have done like Scooby-Doo. But yeah, I haven't heard that. Well, I've probably heard it from you before. And
Yes,
instantly
you just
forgot because my memory is terrible.
And you don't listen to me, you just let me rattle on. But yeah, they started off way back in the dawn of time. It's basically, it's an unholy pope and he's nameless ghouls, unnamed ghouls basically. And they bring us spectacular music.
And there's like cycles with it. So before it used to be album cycles where like the singer, which is like Papa
Emeritus 1, 2, 3.
Gets replaced by someone else. So I think at first, I don't know what it was over because there wasn't really much of a personality to the first two Papas really. The first one was like an old, scary kind of skeletal kind of fella.
He was very kind of regal and very standoffish, I think.
And they kind of
got a bit more evil.
Yeah, and they kind of embraced the more satanic image at that point.
Yeah.
And then even with the third one, I suppose
He went a little bit sort of, I suppose,
Fred Astaire,
exactly. Yeah,
but that was near the end of the cycle. Like when I got into Ghost at first, I thought that they were like paying a homage to like Italian horror movies from the 70s, and I thought that's what they sounded like as well. So I think the first three albums it's not a different band, but they were kind of different. I think they were a little bit more serious, but not as they're not serious band.
They were. No, I don't think they took themselves seriously ever, but they were very much on the darker side.
They were seen as a satanic metal band.
Yeah.
Whereas they are hard rock band, I suppose. Even that's what he called them, or just a rock band now. But like the first three albums. First album was what?
Opus Eponymous.
Second one,
Infestissima.
Yeah, third one, Meliora, which I think is their best album. Fourth one was fucking and then fifth one is their latest album, Impera.
And obviously there's been EPs released in sort of in between that. There's been Popestar, there's been If You Have Ghosts, there's been a load of live albums. There's a lot, they're constantly released.
But there's generally a concept around the albums as well, isn't there, and around the characters.
Yeah.
So say with the first couple, Meliora was meant to be kind of like, I suppose, a futuristic kind of time. It was kind of like leading up, it was like the rise of the Papa into being this like nearly cult-like figure. But it was very rough. You had to do a lot of homework digging into it. There wasn't like much stuff about it. You kind of got bits and pieces.
Yeah, it was very much as well, I suppose. Papa, you wore a mask. All of the ghouls, they were nameless, and while it was kind of an open secret, if you weren't sort of into the band, it wasn't easy to stumble across who they were, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It was only if you were into, say, the music scene, if you were into following metal, that you'd hear the whispers of like, oh yeah, it's your band Tobias Ward.
That's, I suppose we should have said that, the leader of who is basically It's
Ghost. He is Ghost.
He writes everything. He comes up with all the concepts. He does everything. Even in their latest film, he had a role in directing it and writing it and producing it and all that. But yeah, there was controversy kind of like after the first 3 albums where the rest of the band were saying we want to be paid more because we have an equal share in the band, and he was like, no, Ghost is my property.
Yeah.
I do everything. I've put the money in it. I funded it. There was a massive fall in it. There was a big lawsuit, and that's what kind of exposed all their real names.
The persons behind the masks.
Yeah. Oh, it sounded like it was an awful fucking kind of thing. Kind of like it was found in favour to Tobias Forge anyway that Ghost was his property and he didn't owe these people money. And I think they're trying to bring it back to court as well, haven't they? Over the years they've tried unsuccessfully to kind of get money. Now for me, there is a guy, a guitarist, who was like good friends with Tobias Forge, and he was the only one that didn't launch part of it, but he left at the same time, and since he left, it does sound very different.
I suppose if anyone is wondering, go and check out Magna Carta Cartel. Martin Persner is the guitarist, and that is his band. It's those
riffs, those particularly in Meliora, I think it's Magna Carta Cartel sounds like Ghost.
Yeah.
But Ghost doesn't sound like Ghost anymore. So that's what Prequel and the new one.
Impera especially. A Prequel went a bit poppier, a bit more upbeat, a bit more dancey.
80s, isn't it?
Yeah, and Impera then went super poppy.
Yeah, and way more 80s. Sounds nearly like Ozzy Osbourne 80s and some...
Yeah, kind of like Bon Jovi-ish type stuff, I suppose, and Tears for Fears.
There's a lot of riffs in it when you go... Putting it nicely, it's a homage to certain songs. I think if you're not from the year, like obviously you're not going to pick up on it at all, because like none of them are from like super popular songs. There is one that sounds a little bit like "You're as cold as ice," but like over those 2 2 albums, it's like the one Papa character that they carry with it.
And he's funnily enough, he's not even a Papa. He's a Cardinal Copia.
Yeah, well, he was Papa on the new one.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, but where they got more into the stuff, they started doing videos, and it was a lot more telling the tale like sequentially.
Yeah, it was like here's the lore of Ghost, and they were kind of like getting in, Sister Imperator and Papa Nile, and they established basically a whole universe in which Ghost inhabits.
It was done very good, and the patience on them to do this, because it was done over since before COVID, so 4 years. And I suppose Right Here Right Now, the film that just came, the concert film which came out, we saw it in the cinema about how long, a month ago was it?
Easily I'd say.
I think it's on streaming now, or it's coming out on stream. The soundtrack is out for it now anyway, but it that would have covered really finishing off that story.
Cycle, it's kind of, they go through their cycles, I suppose. And I suppose as well, just to sort of bring it back to the very start of everything, Tobias Forge would have started off Ghost way back when, in the days of MySpace. That was how he actually kind of got his launch pad, which will tell you kind of how they were knocking around.
They really built it up. Like, it seemed for a lot of people that they came out of nowhere, because like say magazines like Kerrang and Metal Hammer,
all of a sudden they're just like all over the covers the whole time.
But they were around for a good bit before that. Like, he used to be in a death metal band, wasn't it called? What was it called? Revenant or something? I can't fucking remember the death metal band he was in.
You just knocked it out of my head by saying that now. But yeah, he was in a couple of different. He was in a sort of a poppy one. He was in another sort of a hair metal kind of a piss take band called Crash Diet, I think. Then you've knocked it completely out of my head. I can't remember the name, but yeah, it was like a super hard kind of a death metal band, and they were playing around Sweden, but to small.
They're a very well respected kind of underground band, I suppose. Yeah, and kind of like Ghost was on underground. We saw him. We got into him around the Melioria phase. It was told this story a million times before, but someone recommended him to me as being, they got him confused with Behemoth, and they were like, this Polish black metal band called Ghost. So I was looking at albums, and I was I saw it, and I was I'll fuck it, I'll give it a go. Then I got home and I was like, this is not fucking black metal. What the fuck is this shit? And I think it's because I was expecting something else.
You very much disliked him, but I overheard the album. It was being played in the car quite regularly, and I was like, who are these people? I fucking love this band.
Yeah, you got super into him,
like very instantaneously kind of dove straight into it, and I was like, oh my god, I can't get enough of this band. This is fucking brilliant.
And they were playing close to where we were in a students' union. And like when we saw them, it was like the costumes were still alright, but it was like a cartoon. I remember when they did come out because I was in a bad mood that night. Well, not in a bad mood, but
you were just grumpy about being out. You're not a good kind of a socialising type person.
Yeah, but when they did come on stage, it was like, oh my god, it was just weird. There was a vibe about where you kind of felt like these are going to be big. It's hard to explain, but you kind of went, they shouldn't be fucking playing here.
Yeah, they just had stage presence. They were bursting with personality. They were bursting with energy. Even at that stage, it was all kind of well choreographed, not to the extent it is now, but
it was more adult as well. Yeah. It's one of the things as well. Like they've built up an all ages fan base over the years. When we saw them, it was very much an adult thing. Like they had
much an older crowd.
Nuns coming out into the crowd that were scantily dressed, giving out like the body of Christ and so on. It was meant to be like this satanic celebration.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of
black mass.
kind of innuendos and stuff.
Innuendo.
But like, I mean, when you look at it, we saw them a few times since then, and there was in the Albert Hall in London.
The Royal Albert, which was an amazing fucking jump up. As you said, we were like Students' Union basement one day, and then suddenly they're playing the fucking Royal Albert.
I mean, the audience was very different.
Yeah.
There was a lot of kids, a lot of
family,
teenagers
went
and kids.
Younger, like we're talking like sort of like single digit age kids, like 8 and 9 year olds, teenagers who are like absolutely fucking buried deep in the fandom and absolutely loving it and living their life according to the whole lore, and sort of listening.
Which is nice to see. Like,
it is.
I mean, I wouldn't shit on them for it. There's other people that were saying like it's. Oh, they sold it. They didn't change it really. They kept doing what they were doing. They just probably toned down at the live gigs a little bit.
Because there's an awful lot. They still do a bit of the sexual innuendo, but it's a little bit more.
It's like tickling your taint.
Yeah, it's like comical kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was a little bit sort of like, yes, you must go home and.
Well, they had ghost dildos.
Yes.
Yeah. And which. Yeah. It's there wasn't, but like I mean the whole thing with it. It's not as if it's like fucking mayhem.
No,
or kind of like dark tranquility or someone like that, or dark tranquility.
I was like, they're very mild.
Dark funeral or fucking kind of what's it? The other lads that they're always being accused of being Nazis.
Burzum?
No, well, but it's not as if those suddenly started like to appeal to kids.
Yeah, to kids. Right?
That'd be fairly worrying, actually, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That's it. But no, like I mean, when you're saying, like I mean, I think it's great because a ghost gig is like people go all out. It's like a cool version of the Rocky Horror Show. Yeah. People get dressed up. They do face paint. They've got group meetups, all of this kind of stuff. And
it was really weird being in the middle of London and. Like walking around well before the gig, like hours before the gig, and seeing people dressed up.
Yeah, there's just, and that was what was so cool about it. Like these fans are just walking around dressed as Papa Emeritus or dressed as nuns or in like some outlandish kind of goth gear.
But all the young kids, like now I mean young kids. Yeah. Like I mean, I'd say I don't know, I'm terrible with age, but under 10 anyway, definitely like small children.
Yeah, tons of teenagers, tons of young adults. But of course, then there was the typical older crowd that we be part of. There was I remember when we were queuing up for our tickets, there was like a Spanish couple in front of us who were like the epitome of a trash couple, sort of, cut off in fucking white sneakers and all the rest, and they're going to see ghosts,
and generally, it's a really, really nice audience. We saw them in Cardiff, though, in fucking the
Motorpoint Arena.
Yeah, and the crowd that were in there, being honest, a lot of them were fucking, well, not a lot of them, there was a certain bad crowd that were in there. Like, someone took a shit in the middle of the fucking crowd, like, which is fucking...
I think...
and there was fights going on.
But I think that particular venue at times, and I suppose when it was as well, it was just people.
It's the regulars that were
they go dancing that goes on.
Yeah, there was a group of middle-aged men that were standing at the back just getting hammered and fucking kind of like trying it on with teenage girls and kind of nearly sneering at people, and it's like, well, why come? Like you fucking losers, really. Yeah. With it. But like in general,
the ghost crowd is actually super positive and very accepting as well. There's an awful lot of people I think who only feel their true authentic selves at things like this, where they can go to a gig, they can let loose, and they know that people aren't going to be like, oh, stay your man, look at him.
I think the only audience that I met that I thought were nicer than the ghost crowd were the Kiss audience,
and probably a similar vein as well, because it's that whole theatrical thing,
But like, I mean, we saw Kiss there when they were on the last
one of their farewell tours.
Yeah. But it was like the people that were there that day, it was at Download, and the people that were there over that Friday, it was a lovely atmosphere.
Yeah.
It was really nice. The Saturday there was a bunch of knobs at it. It was a lot more rougher. Yeah, people were just ignorant in general. Like sitting in front of it, it was just a different vibe altogether.
Yeah, but Kiss were just so nice.
Yeah, brilliant crowd.
Everyone helping
Brilliant,
each other.
yeah.
Everyone being so positive and so cheerful, and you know, just full of compliments for everybody, and just as you said, a nice general happy.
It was just like with Ghost, all ages.
Yeah.
With it was just really, it was really. Kiss is always a bizarre one for me with like younger people being into him, because it is like in that role models thing where it's like Love Gun, like their songs are fucking filthy. Now, one of the things I thought about Kiss was that they put on a great fucking show, and as well when you look at them, and they were like in their 70s, and like Paul Stanley fucking shooting out like on a wire,
basically a skyhook across
onto
the
a 50-foot fucking building, kind of, you know, singing fucking Love Gun or whatever. But when Gene Simmons came out and they started doing it must have been from the 70s, because I never heard some of the songs before, but he sounded like a black woman.
Paul Stanley, he was doing that like a Tom and Jerry cartoon or something.
Yeah, it was just really, because he was like talking away, and then all of a sudden he put on this accent, and it's all like it's like a female black blues singer from like fucking the 50s, or so. It was just really, it was just like, what?
And then of course Gene Simmons coming out with the sort of the proper demon kind of a thing, you know, spitting blood, you know, sort of sinister green light. That kind of takes a turn like so quickly,
the one
doesn't
when they did with the guitar player with the UFOs, that was painful. Where he was shooting down UFOs with his guitar, and went on for like 5 minutes, and there was nothing to it. It was just like, oh god, please stop.
It was fun though.
But it was like Ghost.
They're in that same vein.
But I think he had that at first, that they wanted to have this big, huge stage presence and do all these big things. And we saw him with Metallica, and like they were just like, obviously they're a backup band, but like this, I think that might have been a bit of a wake up call for how come, like, you know, it's like they were dwarfed.
Well, that was, I mean, they're basically, it was like a regular size band on a Metallica size stage. I mean, Metallica, it was a stadium they were playing, and Ghost at that stage were still kind of not quite an arena band. So obviously they brought along their set dressing and all the rest, and the whole thing fitted into like 5 foot square.
We were following, and it was like they were so proud of getting that. Then they were like, oh, we're stepping up into, and I'd say when they did that, they were like, we could not afford to do like what Metallica do, or Kiss, or any of these mega bands, you know.
Well, I tell you, they're fucking getting there.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think anyone gets to Metallica or Kiss.
No, I don't, but I think they're like, I mean, from if you remember, as you said, back in the day when it was just like 5 or 6 of them like standing around and like clearly fucking like stage worn costumes where it's like sweated
the outfits are great, but I don't think you're going to have that where he's going to be flying around the place and there's going to be
he has his tricycle, which is something else.
Well, he doesn't need to do it. I think the songs stand, and he's got stage presence enough that he can put, you know, he doesn't need tricks. He doesn't need laser shooting out of his arse, like. And like, I mean, the whole thing with Kiss as well, that's kind of what Kiss kind of got famous for, you know, where it was like the biggest stage show, you know, where they were like nearly like a circus. Sure, they had that Psycho Circus thing going around for a long time. But why do you like Ghost? Because you're definitely more of a fan. I wouldn't have got into Ghost only for you kind of just.
I just latched onto
playing and playing and playing.
Oh, it's fucking brilliant though, because like, I mean, I like metal, and I will be upfront as well, my hearing is shit. So like, you were like, we'd be listening to a metal album and you'd be like, you know, oh, fucking cool lyrics, and I'm like, I can't make out a thing he's saying. It's just it's all fucking Cookie Monster noises and grunts and grumbles to me, but I enjoy it. But I'd have to go and look up the lyrics. And Ghost was kind of like the first metal-y theme band that all of a sudden I was like, I understand the lyrics. Oh my god. And then I got sucked into it as well, because the lyrics were actually quite clever as well. They had like 2 and 3 different meanings, and like if you actually looked into it a little bit further, it was like, Jesus, he's done his research on the Bible, or he's done his research on this particular aspect of like the 7th circle of hell or something, or he's referencing this film.
There was a whole thing for a while where people were like, oh my god, can he predict the future? Because the prequel came out, and just as it came out, COVID broke out.
Yeah, I know, that was all about basically a plague hitting the world and like taking out everyone, and then like just shortly after it was released, it was like, oh shit, there's a plague for real, like, you know?
Al Kaiserian, it was it came out just before like, or that kind of, what is the album called? Imperium. Yeah, it's about like the fall of the Roman Empire, isn't it? Or
it's that kind of a thing, I suppose. Really, it's just sort of like excess and coming up as well, I suppose, is partially a dig at, like, say, the state of politics in America and all this, and figures like Trump.
I think, because I can't remember what, but people were like, oh my god, he predicted stuff again. And I was like, he didn't. Like, the world has always been like this.
He said it himself as well, because people, I think, have put it to him in interviews. They're kind of like, do you know something we don't? And he's like, I'm just looking at history. He's like, history is a cycle, it just keeps repeating itself. And I just seem to have been locked into like the next cycle kind of all along.
But like what you were saying, from where we saw him coming from, like when they were being sued as well, he, like when he came out with the finances, and it was like, we don't make money, we're not making money. He was like, I've been putting money, and I'm on the fucking dole. For people who aren't familiar, the dole is like social welfare,
social welfare,
or social protection, or I don't know what it's called, and it is social protection in the States, isn't it?
Social welfare, I suppose. I suppose, just to take any negative connotations off it, though, I know the way it's perceived in the States. In Europe, it's like it's a social safety net. It's not like for the dregs of society or anything.
Well, it's the same over in the States. It's you pay in like over time when you're working, and then if you're out of work for some reason, then you basically get your money back. Well, obviously not all your money back, but
a portion of it, kind of a thing. But it's that safety net for when you're between jobs. And of course, sort of when you're, he was trying to work in call centres and do the band, then try and support. Of course, he had a very young family at the time. The wife had just given birth to twins, and it was sort of, that's a hard position to be in, to actually make it from there as well.
It's a real, not a good luck story, because I suppose there is a certain amount of luck in with, but like, I mean, he persevered through a
huge amount of adversity, like, I mean, that's the thing that always gets me, is like, literally just as the band fucking hit it big on MySpace, and it's sort of, he was after going through everything, sort of doing all the background work, getting everything ready, laying all the groundwork, and ready to go, Ghost, and it suddenly took off on MySpace. And literally the same week it started taking off on MySpace, his older brother died, passed away.
Song Cerise is about his brother, isn't it?
But it was just like, and how horrible is that like the brother who encouraged him all along, and sort of the love of music, and then it's just to try and deal with this horrendous tragedy, just as the thing that you've been working towards for so long finally starts to take off. And it's like to try and keep your head in amongst all that and be able to come out the other side and actually go, right, I've got a basis for a band, right, I'm going to go forward with it, kind of a thing, Well,
it's I know that there's been tragedy kind of like in his life with stuff, but he's very positive. Like, I mean, that's the big kind of thing with Right Here Right Now. I think, say, for people who might be listening to this that aren't familiar with Ghost, and we're after saying that it kind of follows a story, you don't need it. The first five, when the titles are coming up, it kind of covers the story of where we are now, and it's not like a complicated fucking thing. It just explains what Ghost is. But like the film, like obviously it's a concert. Excuse me, so there's about, 15, 16 songs played in it over 2 hours, but it's got backstage stuff, so when he goes, but it's telling the story going on, and it's incredibly positive. And even when he's talking to the crowd, a lot of it is about positive. It's like, look after each other, and even at the end of it, which I think, spoilers, which but when people are leaving, he's like, just remember, everyone is different ages, different sizes, different capabilities, be nice to each other,
That's something as well. I've always admired Ghost for it. They were, everyone seems to be jumping on the bandwagon now, and it's kind of like, they'll have a little speech, like I mentioned Metallica, Hetfield is doing it the whole time. He's like, look, sort of, everyone is happy now, but there's times when things just get on top of you, and just reach out and speak to somebody and don't be alone, kind of a thing. Ghost, Tobias Forge has been kind of doing that for a long time, not only at the concerts but in all the meet and greets. When they started off first, obviously enough, they were kind of trying to they weren't doing official meet and greets, it's just fans are queuing up around the back of the venue and waiting for them to go out to the tour bus, and they'd always stop and have a chat and all the rest. And it was actually quite nice that they kept the illusion going as well, the fans, because they were so respectful to the fans. The fans in turn were respectful to them, and they weren't like taking photographs with them unmasked. But I suppose as things progressed, they had to go into the official meet and greets because there's so many fans and all of that.
We saw him, I didn't, I think we've seen him twice. Actually, like we've seen him, 5 times?
Oh yeah, good 3 times.
But like actually saw him in person at the student union one thing. It was like where the band room was, someone came out, and I was kind of looking at him and I was like, that's not him, he's too fucking small.
That's because he's such a large stage presence.
And it was this tiny scrawny little guy that was coming out, and he was signing fucking things for people and just being nice to people. We didn't go over and say anything to him because it was just like, come on, we go home.
Yeah, you're just a total like fucking reject like that.
Yeah, but
you're just like,
I don't know.
Talk to people.
I think it's awkward. But it's Where was it? Saw him on one of the other things as well. He was standing around outside signing things for
That's
people.
it, yeah. But that's the thing. He would have put in the hours, like standing around out by the tour bus, talking to people, signing anything anyone brought along. But that's what I was going to say. When I moved to the meet and greets, there's a lot of people. I suppose a lot of people in general, if they're into a particular type of music and if the music resonates with them, sometimes if they're in a bad place it actually helps. And there's a lot of people like, oh my god, I was suicidal, but this song spoke to me and I felt like I wasn't alone. So he does tend to get an awful lot of people coming up to him that like they're in floods of tears, they're hysterical when they see him. They're like, my god, you don't know the impact you've had on me, you saved my son's life, or you did this, or whatever it was. And like most bands would be freaked out by that and they'd be like, Jesus, I'm not doing meet and greets to all these weirdos. He kind of embraced all of this. He always took time to talk to people. He'd hug them. He'd be very personal, sort of, and have the time to talk to them, be interested in it. And like the meet and greets, like the photo opportunities are always fucking hilarious. Like, there's, I think, some Dublin girl kind of almost rose to stardom because she got a photo with a bag of Dutch Gold cans taken with him. And he was just like, I'll hold the cans, but I've no idea what this represents or whatever. But like literally anything you want, like people are turning up dressed as like nuns and, they're doing wacky poses and all the rest.
Just talking about the meet and greet things before I forget about it, I was reading that at one point there was people asking on the 9 Inch Nails subreddit, has anyone what's he like in real life? And there was someone saying, oh yeah, I met him years ago, and they were like saying, I thought it'd be like really cool, and I just like went up to him and I had it in my head to go up and I was like, hi Trent, and they got up to him and they said that they just collapsed. They literally collapsed on the floor and started crying and shaking out, and they were like, oh, he was so nice about it, but he was kind of like, what the fuck? He was kind of like, fucking I'm nobody, kind of like, what the fuck are you getting?
Why are you so hysterical? Like, Jesus. But that's like, you do it like, I follow a few ghost subreddits and stuff like that, or ghost kind of Facebook pages, just to kind of keep, not that I'm not in the fandom myself as such, insofar as I'm very reclusive, I don't post, I don't do anything like that, but it's nice to just keep an eye on what other people are up to and plotting things for like concerts and all that kind of stuff, and just sharing memorabilia. A lot of people do their trading, like the mummy does, the money and stuff like that, or pics. But the amount of people that like give their kind of experience of the meet and greets and they're like, oh my god, like that, they're like, I had it in my head I wanted to give him a gift, but like I just collapsed in floods of tears and all that. I just ended up on the ground and like, you say you just picked me up and like patted my shoulder and it's okay and what's, why are you so upset, kind of a thing. But like to have the wherewithal to deal with all of this energy from fans, like not negative, but you know what I mean, it's serious stuff, listening to people like, and start pouring out their heart to you. And then like an hour later you're up on stage and you're trying to be full of fucking life and
there's
energy.
not a lot of people that do it, like, I won't name any bands, but like, there's a lot of big bands that I know that like they've been fairly shitty to fans like over things, and like they'd be just looking down their nose at people with that.
And like, where are you without your fans? Like?
Yeah, whereas I do think he kind of like embraced it, but you do get the genuine feeling that I think that he's after realising that he has a responsibility towards people nearly to a certain degree, and that he takes it seriously, and he doesn't have to be nice to people after it. He's after
actually suit his character better if he was a jerk. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and as well, he doesn't have to be trying to encourage positivity in the crowd at all. There's not. He'd still have fucking fans. He'd still sell records from it. Like, it's
it's just something that I think he feels he should be doing, or is the right thing to do, I suppose. But even just by nature of the way the stage shows are presented, like, the few times we've seen him, I've come away absolutely beaming for like weeks afterwards, because they're hilarious, but
He's
they're so
very, very
innocently
funny, like.
hilarious as well at times. Like, fucking one of the shows, it was just ridiculous. It was when he was Cardinal Copia. He had Papa Niall come out, resurrected.
Papa Niall, for people who don't, it's the original member, and they have things where they kind of go back to the 60s when he was the founder of Ghost, and he's like the father of Cardinal Copia. So he's like, all of them are dead, all the old ones are dead, and they get kept in kind of
these glass cases that they tour around with the band. So obviously they're like wax dummies. Just sorry to spoil the illusion, but people can go and view it kind of before the shows. But they resurrect Papa Niall for like Miasma, the sax solo.
Jump starting with like,
and he comes out and he does this ridiculous fucking saxophone solo with sunglasses on, and he's like, he's doing the whole kind of James Brown thing, like no, I'm on my knees, but let me finish, kind of a thing. And then at the end of it he kind of carks it and passes out again.
It is,
but you've got all that, and you've got him, as I said, coming on stage on a tiny kid's tricycle, like, and it's the most ridiculous, gently comedic kind of things, you know. It's just, you go home kind of going, that was fucking hilarious, like,
but there's so many things that he's after getting very, very good at. Well, he was always good on stage, but he's very, very, very funny, like you were saying with. But I think that's nearly the thing, that you're looking at him and they look quite scary or intimidating, and then it's just all these silly really and stupid things. Or when he talks, and it's like this, bleh.
That's it. I've always found that hilarious. Like, I mean, he's Swedish himself. He's speaking in his second language, which is English. He's putting on an Italian sort of Transylvanian accent, and it's just like, what a weird thing to have to try and keep up as a stage presence the whole time. But it works. That's the thing. It's so outlandish and ridiculous. But he's kind of been like that from the start. You know, sort of, they did kind of a video for a few of Ghosts, and he turned up in this like weird mask, and you know, it's true. There was one time as well, for I think they played Zombie Queen live in a record store, and instead of the whole sort of the solo, he just took out a kazoo and started kazooing away, like, for the solo.
I remember that. Yeah, that's on YouTube.
And and he does it very seriously and very dramatically, but then it's just this absolutely ridiculous kazoo solo, and it's like, well, there you go. It kind of sums up the band, like.
But and saying that, like, for all the like with Right Here Right Now, like, obviously we're not going to spoil it for people. It's quite touching, and the message with it is very positive, touching and very positive as well. And the normal kind of way that they see in the new Papa was like they'd have the old one die on stage and the new one would come out then kind of like in the costume, and then you wouldn't find out anything for a couple of months with it.
Yeah, because they always do it at the end of a tour cycle, final show kind of thing.
And it's the way that they kind of do that. It's very positive, and it's hard. Like, he's a good actor. He's actually a really, really, really good actor. It's just, I was amazed how well written the thing is with it, and some of there's some kind of stupid gags in it as well, where it's hard to explain. Like, I mean, it ruins things as well, but like there's just like one thing where it's an eye shot with people just looking around, and then one of them going googly eyed, and it's just. It's just silly.
Yeah,
like,
it's almost airplane levels of silly, I suppose, as well. And I mean, like, Jesus, we're after picking up a new saying, like, you know, fucking from Hot Rod.
Green beans.
Yeah, it was always cool beans, but now it's green beans. It's just so dorky that he gets it wrong. But it is, that's the thing, they've had such practice, I suppose, doing all the sort of the shorts on YouTube for the lore, you know, sort of just all these bizarre little things where he's hanging around in this sort of, you know, sort of the old kind of church, you know, sort of between shows, and he's wearing his kind of ridiculous velour tracksuit because he's kind of off duty and stuff, you know. It's just all these silly little kind of things that you just kind of, you feel like you kind of know the character off screen and on, if you know what I mean.
That's what you're kind of rooting for.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, with the actual the track listing on this, because he's after getting to the point. It was really weird when we saw him like 3 albums in that you kind of knew all the songs.
Well, you knew what they were going to play because they only had a certain amount to pick from. That's the thing.
But they were still like big songs. Like, I mean, for a band, like, there's plenty of bands out there that have, like, say maybe 10 fucking albums, and there might be like 1 or 2 good songs out of it. Like, there are like there's
bangers. Each album is stacked full of like I mean, that's the thing. I know you don't. You prefer other songs. I prefer different songs. So what you do, but honestly,
you still can't say that they're bad songs.
No, you know, and there's such a range as well. If you want something sinister and fucking like menacing, there's that there. If you want something that's upbeat and positive, if you want something that's very melancholy and sad, if you want something that's just weird 80s sax solo, it's there as well, you know.
That's the thing. It was really, I suppose, prequel that kind of
exploded.
Because it was. It's very 80s metal, like nearly glam rock metal, or not glam rock, hair metal, some of the stuff with it, but not at the same point because of the whole thing. And like the big song, well, Rats was big, but I can't even
Dance Macabre.
Where it's like, I want to bewitch you.
Yeah.
It's like, you can see how it appealed to a lot of people, and then of course TikTok happened. For them, they had an EP where it was like a throwback to the '60s songs, that the original ones.
Mariana Cross.
and that was out for a good while before. Then it somehow took off
got into the algorithm basically
on TikTok.
Yeah.
So you had a bunch of kids dancing or singing along to it, and then like.
Fandom just exploded.
Yeah. So they got a whole
quadrupled, I'd say, at that stage.
Fans from that, which. kind of, I don't, TikTok wouldn't be for me. It's like
Yes,
a lot
but
of younger people.
it's not going to be for a mid-40s old metalhead, is it really? Yeah.
But you know what I mean? If you can get new fans from, like the way Metallica got it from Stranger Things, it wouldn't be like, people shouldn't be.
Yeah,
It's
how
like,
dare you?
people find music different ways. It's
Exactly.
great that they get there in the end.
It's great that younger people are coming up and they have that excitement of growing up with a band as well, you know, and kind of going through all the cycles with it. But that's, I think, something they do astoundingly well is, I think he actually thinks about it as well. Every album cycle, he's like, he can picture it, what the show needs. So he's like, I need a banger of an opener. I need this for the middle. I need this for the end.
Yeah.
So every album he's had like an opener, a big opener. Like for a while it was, say, maybe Square Hammer. Now it's Rats. Then it was Kaiserion, and he has the big fucking raucous opener.
I think someone compared him, I remember when they were coming up at one point, to Queen. And I think he was like saying, oh, he's one of these big influences, Queen.
Of course, yeah.
And they are. Like, I mean, you can... There's an awful lot, like what you were saying with the stadium rock kind of anthems. Like, you can, sometimes I can be a fucking cantankerous bastard, and I remember listening to some of them and kind of, but at the same point, it's really, really hard to write stuff like that. If it was easy, everyone would be having hits after hits after hits.
That's it, yeah.
So he is very, very good songwriter.
Fantastic tunesmith, if you want to go like that. But it is like, that's the thing. I mean, most bands have like maybe 3 or 4 solid. Yeah, this will do for a big blast of an opener. They can honestly come on. They've got 2 or 3 off each album that they could feasibly open the show with, and everyone would still explode into fucking, you know, cheers and fucking weeping joy and all that kind of stuff. And again, for the finisher as well, they have a number of songs they can choose to finish everything off for the encore.
Well, I think it says a lot about with the new album as well, and especially with Right Here Right Now, that like the first couple of songs on it are off the new album, which it takes a lot of balls for a band to do that, and a lot of confidence, and as well it says a lot about the fans that they embrace the new stuff when it comes out, and that you can actually open up a gig with the new stuff. Like, I mean, we've seen bands before, and when they just play all the new stuff, you kind of go,
people are kind of like, when are you going to get to the hits? I want, like, you know, whatever it is, whatever big hit from the 80s.
And I think there's an awful lot of there is an awful lot, and probably more new stuff in this than anything fucking else. And it just fits in so well with everything. It's just when you hear them all together mixed up like that you kind of go, Jesus, you know, there's not that much of a difference between the newer stuff and the old stuff. That there's a high quality mark that he set years ago.
A high production level and all the rest. Yeah. That's it. Like, I mean, there's the few songs that, like, when they come on, I'm just like, yeah, this is my song live, fucking brilliant. And it's, again, there's so many of those as well. Like, I mean, there's some ridiculous songs that are just there. They sound a bit silly maybe on an album when you're sitting there listening by yourself in your own sitting room, but then when you hear it live you go, that's why the fuck that song is like that. Conclavi Con Dio is a brilliant fucking, it's mega when it's played live.
Well,
it's
in
like
the 20s when we heard that at first on the album, it was like,
I
this
still
is
don't
terrible.
like the song. That's it. Like, I mean, it's very musical theatre, I suppose. Is the best way I can put it. Is like,
you could nearly see it in the producers or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. It's
or no, maybe Les Miserables. No,
it's that kind of thing where it's kind of like it's very theatre musical kind of thing. Oi, oi, mate, you know, this kind of like fucking, I don't know, Oliver Twisty type thing.
But it works live.
That's the thing. I hate that song. It's one of the few songs that I'd always skip. And then when we saw it live on, you know, within the Right Here Right Now film, I went, I get it now. This is fucking cool. And I suppose just a sort of show where they've come from, where it was just a couple of them standing around on stage like in the early days. Now they have troops of dancers coming out, adding to the whole spectacle, and they are actually fucking, it's a very cool spectacle when they get the dancers out, like, you know, they really make the song, they make it come alive.
Well, that's what they had before this. They had a covers EP, I suppose, or quite a few songs, and they did a cover of Stay With Me with Patrick Wilson singing,
so bizarre.
For
so well.
The new Insidious movie, the last Insidious movie, Red Door, which I still haven't seen. I haven't heard great things about it, but still looking at it anyway. But that was actually really good. It was a really weird thing. The cover that they did of Enter Sandman for the Black album thing, I didn't, because it was just basically a cover of Enter Sandman.
Yeah.
But like stuff that he does himself, like Jesus He Loves Me cover is fucking brilliant.
Jesus He Knows Me, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like
just,
have you got Ghosts? Yeah. Or you Rocky Erickson's.
A lot of them are kind of out of left field where you're kind of like, God, I really wouldn't have expected them to cover that particular song, but when they do it, They're fucking bangers, like they're standout, and they become ghost songs. I suppose it's the way like maybe Johnny Cash did it with Hurt.
Yeah.
He makes it his own, and they're two entirely separate beasts, the Nine Inch Nails version, the Johnny Cash version. These ones again, he's done like so many, like I mean he's done covers like ABBA and stuff like that, you know, and it's like
what ABBA song?
Fucking wasn't it I'm a Marionette or something like that?
I don't know. I didn't really listen to that album too much because I like the Genesis one and all that, but like I'm not really a fan of Iron Maiden.
Yeah, the Phantom of the Opera one. But there's some other really weird ones like that he's done that would have been, say, very big artists in Sweden, but virtually unknown outside.
Well, I think he broke Rocky Erickson to a lot of people that would have been too young to know. And like, I mean, the thing is, I would have known some of Rocky Erickson songs, but didn't realise I did until I went up, when you were saying, oh, it's Rocky Erickson, and I went off looking into him, like, and I realised that, well, even for the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack, there was a Rocky Erickson song on it. And you know, there are songs over the years that you would have heard, and I was like, I had no idea about this man. And I've been looking for his fucking DVD.
I know there's a film,
about him for
about his life, and it just absolutely can't get it. It just seems to be non-existent anymore. But like, there's the sort of, as I said, there's the big bangers, and you can kind of. They have the big videos, I suppose, behind them and all the rest from the early stage. Like Year Zero was a fucking huge video at the time, you know. Dance Macabre was another huge hit. It was played non-stop on all the sort of the Rocky stations, and they folded all into Right Here Right Now, and they're fantastic live. It
does. It's for people who've never listened to Ghost, who aren't fans of Ghost. I think you should go off and give it's a very entertaining movie
concert
anyway.
film,
the songs are great, and I think it's a great introduction to Ghost. And for people who want to see kind of stuff about in the future. Sorry, I'm just giggling there because our dog, we keep trying to hide toys on him when we're doing the podcast because they all have fucking squeakers out.
He keeps finding them. He's dragging them out from under sofas and beds.
We've got about a fucking dozen toys like at the moment.
Spoiled child.
But he's just there looking up, wagging his tail.
Yeah, we should get him a plushie copia. There's Ghost of everything. Yeah, they have.
Should do him up like Cardinal. Well, he kind of has that. Yeah.
Well, in fact, actually, the one time I ever dressed up for Halloween, it was a work Halloween. It was like come to work dressed. Yeah, and I dressed up as Puppetry. And there was only a few other people dressed up, and it was like that thing with what's her name in the Pam in the office, where she turns up and hardly anyone else is. So I was sitting in a management meeting, and like the other managers sitting across me, and they're like, I can't take you fucking seriously with your fucking corpse face. Please stop.
But didn't you dress up as Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat at one stage? You found the things on Instagram how to do it. I remember getting
you were just sitting reading a book or something. I just wandered into the city.
No, you sent me a picture when I was in work. I take off in a ninja pose, and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yes, I take my mad notions every now and again. But that was sort of, and if there's a couple of other people who would have recognised who I was dressed up as, very few people did, in fairness, but it was like very good experience for myself, dressing up as Puppetry, going into work and just driving through normal streets in my little small car in the middle of the day dressed as Papa.
There you see all the people that they look at you and they see it's like corpse paint.
I know, she's some weirdo into like metal or something like that.
But I suppose, look, we could keep going on about like, we like Ghosts, we like Ghosts. I nearly just want to do an introduction about like what the good things are about
And it is, check out the film as well, because it isn't just all about Papa or Cardinal Copia or whatever, sort of the current main one is. The Nameless Ghouls, even though they're nameless at the moment, they're
the new costumes are
in
really,
their own right.
It's when people are, I'm like, but the whole thing, like people say about like actors and costumes, like you'll have people saying about people who play Jason Voorhees and all that. It's like it's very hard to act in a mask.
Yes, it's very hard to portray emotion
and non-verbal, and they do it, and it's all very over the top, kind of wave and things. So there's like one guitarist who's quite obviously trying to get to the forefront of everything, and he's like, get away, you dickhead.
Stop trying to be a showman. Get away.
But they're fucking excellent musicians live. Like
absolutely.
The whole I think that they are better than the original people, really, because when we saw,
you've got the likes of Per Erickson, playing guitar and all the rest. I mean, there's fucking
they put on way more of a show. Like beforehand, it was nearly this. I suppose it was the whole thing. They were just in fucking hooded robes, and they were meant to kind of act really dour.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that was the thing as well. I suppose the transition from the previous costumes where they had the kind of the silver face mask, they had no mouth holes or anything like that, so they were supposed to be proper like nameless ghouls, faceless ghouls. To now where the current ghouls, they're a little bit steampunky, which I'm generally not into. But like when they came out at first, I was like, I fucking hate these, and now I'm like, I fucking love these. These are fantastic.
I think they're
costumes.
very, very cool.
Yeah.
They must be a nightmare to play live in. Like,
I'd say all of it is, because I'd say you're absolutely in fucking sweaty balls and fucking just dripping sweat and trying to breathe, and so capes and all sorts of shit and big tall boots and all that. But they're so cool.
It's like you were saying about the whole thing. He has an overall vision for stuff, and like the costumes of the ghouls and everything else just fit into it,
and it does, it
with
fits
the cover
with the music
art.
yeah, exactly.
And like this time
actually that's something that we could talk about forever as well, the cover art. He goes
amazing,
to why can't I remember the name of the artist, but again a very well known artist that does all these intricate sort of
it's like a reference to Aleister Crowley, this album cover. That's why I thought it's going to be a big Crowley thing, fucking, and then like Little Sunshine was the thing. You'll have a lot of people that are like, oh, I knew it had Crowley with Little Sunshine thing. You fucking did not. That's a really, really, really obscure reference to it. And like, I mean, even like I'm big into, we'll say, stuff like that for fucking decades. I never heard it. It was like something from a fucking poem that he wrote.
Yeah.
And like,
but that's what I mean.
People that are into the occult don't read his fucking poetry.
And the man does his reference. And, sort of like the Meliora stuff was so intricately layered. I spent ages going down rabbit holes, like looking at stuff.
He's a very, like, I mean, he's
super intelligent.
Yeah, I think at some stage, I think he's going to want to probably try and do something a bit more. See, although has he won Emmys? He's been at the Emmys or the Grammys a few times.
Well, the Swedish Grammys he's won stuff there.
He's been at the American Grammy
I think so,
Awards.
Actually, yeah.
I'm
terrible. I don't keep up with like awards or anything like that.
Yeah, not that they matter, but it's when you see people getting that big. I'm just wondering when he's going to get to the point where he's going to
movie soundtracks.
Yeah, try and do something like a little bit more. I don't know. I hate to say serious because it's like, well, it's not like what they're doing is not serious. I don't know how to phrase, but the way you'll get people that they have these things where they're saying, oh, I want to do something a little bit more wordy, where they don't really realise that what they're doing is actually wordy.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, just whatever he says he's going to do, he fucking does it. Because I can remember years ago he was going on about, we're going to do a ghost film, and I was like, fucking hell, like, you're fucking touring around in a shitty bus, like, and here we are.
I think Jonas Sackerland, so he used to be in Battery, and he did like the
documentary thing.
Oh God, what can I think of them? Lords of Chaos, and but obviously loads of music videos and different bits and pieces over the years. But I think he produced it, and he probably helped with the cinema, And
that's, I suppose, again, you have the original team as well. I mean, you have Kirsten Muldrig has been there from the start. Slayer's manager, she's been his manager kind of from the start, and Rick Sales, that team, and they're producers on this as well. So it's the same kind of. It's all the same people, I suppose, that he keeps around him, that, in that respect.
There's a consistency with him as well. One thing I do admire vastly about him is that even though the albums, there's different themes to them, but they're not that drastically different, really, especially like when you're listening to Right Here, Right Now, and you see, there's not that much of it, where it would have been very easily to kind of say, right, this is what's popular at the moment, maybe I should try this, and maybe I should try that. Yeah. And he didn't. I think a large part of him is responsible for metal bands getting back into 80s sounding songs, because like there was a load of bands, like there was for a while they seemed to be musicians, whereas like Metallica and Behemoth even, and a lot of these bands were like, Ghost are fantastic, these are fucking like great band, but no one seems to be hearing them, so it would have been very easy for when they're at that point to say, oh, we try and sound like Metallica's new stuff, or we try and sound like Behemoth, and they haven't, which is
forged their own paths.
Yeah, they have,
forged.
Oh, yeah, well, I suppose on that,
fantastic.
we'll call it a day, and look, like we keep saying, go off. Check out Right Here, Right Now. Even just listen to it on whatever streaming service you're doing. It'll be obviously free to listen to. But like if you want, you should go out and support Ghost in some way. Right?
Yeah.
They do.
If
like,
you do
deserve
get the
money,
chance to go and see them live, fucking grab it with both hands. They are excellent live, even if you don't like their music. Fantastic stage show.
But yeah, look, we'll be back next week with something different. And if you've made it this far, it'd be great, whatever platform you're on, if you could give us a review, give us a like.
Or tell us what you like.
Subscribe.
And we might,
tell us and see how we might chat about it. And you never know. If we don't know too much about it, we might have you on the show.
Yeah.
But
there is a threat.
But yeah, look, until next time, goodbye.